Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Fountain pen showdown today. 2 pens, very different price points, but what I'm doing is continuing my look at my smaller pens, my pocket-sized pens. So the 2 pens I'm going to take a look at is the Pilot Prera, so getting a bit large for a pocket pen, but still I would class this as a pocket pen. And that's going to go up against the Sailor ProGear Slim. Now, you might argue and say, Gary, that's not a pocket pen, but when we look at the size, when we'll look better, you know, they're very, very close in size. So I thought they're interesting comparison. Steel nib, gold nib. Be interesting to see how they compare. So join me now down on the table. We'll take a look at the pens, walk through the body, do some size comparisons, weights and measures, a writing sample, then I'll give my thoughts and some scores for these pens. Welcome down to the table. Here we've got our 2 pens. We've got the Pilot Prera, we've got the Sailor ProGear Slim. Let's be honest from the outset, 2 very different price points. The Prera, 76 Aussie dollars. The Sailor ProGear Slim, 355 Aussie dollars. Aimed at 2 very different markets. We've got a steel nib in the Prera, we've got a gold nib in the Sailor. Let's start by taking a walk through the bodies. This isn't a detailed look at each pen. If you want a detailed look, I do have separate videos on these. We'll start though looking shape. The shape is actually very similar. They've both got flat ends and they're both, as I say, fairly smallish pens. We'll do a full proper size comparison, but if we put them side by side, you're only talking a few millimeters difference in terms of length. This particular Prera, it's transparent, so we've got a transparent body. The cap, yes, it is transparent, but what we're seeing, this white translucent bit, that's a liner inside the cap. So if I just quickly take this off, you can see there we've got a liner, and hopefully I can get this angled. So that helps to seal the nib unit, helps to stop it from drying out. Silver trim on the Prera, gold trim on the Sailor. The Sailor looks really nice. This is called blue-green nebula. So it's like this blue-green tealy colour, slightly translucent, but then we've got the pops there of silver, like silver dust it looks. And that really represents the stars within the nebula. And different ones shine depending how the light is. Very, very pretty. Looks very nice. The caps pulls off on the Prera, whereas the cap twists off on the Sailor. I'll just pop these next to each other. We'll take a quick look at the nibs. So on the Prera, this is a steel nib. Then on here we've got Pilot, super quality, Japan, and then M. This is a medium nib. The Sailor nib, this is a 14 karat gold nib. We've got a nice decorative border, so we're already looking a little bit fancier. Then we've got 1911. We've got the Sailor anchor logo. Below that, we've got 14K and 585. And then right at the bottom, we've got Sailor. This nib, this is a broad nib. I think that's there engraved on the side. So we've got a medium versus a broad. That's going to be one thing which is interesting. Actually look at the line difference when we get round to doing the writing. They are both, as I say, small pens. They are both cartridge converters. So with the Prera, here we go. This has got a Con 40 in it. And then with the Sailor, again here, we've got a Sailor converter. Now, the difference here, we've got metal fittings on the ProGear Slim. The Prera is all plastic fittings. Now, I need to take a closer look at the cap because it looks like this end unit here is screwed on. But if there's some way I can make sure that this is sealed, I wonder if that's something that I could possibly eyedrop at. I don't know. Let me know if it's something you've tried. I'd be interested. I don't know whether to try it myself or not. But in terms of look, size-wise, yes, very similar. I do like the colour in there on the Sailor. I'm knocking this all over the place. Let's do some size comparisons. I brought in my standard comparison pens, which is the Pilot Metropolitan and the Lamy Safari. Noticeable difference, isn't there? Let's pop the caps off. With the caps off, again, we see a big difference. What I'm going to do is pop the caps on both of these in a minute. If we look at the nibs though, the nibs all very similar in size, aren't they? They're all smallish looking nibs. I'm told that the nibs between the Metropolitan and the Prera are interchangeable. I haven't tried it, so I can't say it is or not, but that's what I've been told by multiple different people. The Prera, in the hand unposted, get away with it for a couple of words, but it does feel a bit short. Post it does feel a lot nicer. Feels a nice length. The section actually doesn't feel too thin. Let's pop this down. And then with the Sailor, again, a little bit longer feeling when it's unposted. I can get away with this for maybe a sentence. Post it though, again, very nice balance, nice length. This is how I tend to use this pen. The section, once again, doesn't actually feel too thin. If we look at these now that we're posted, the Prera, definitely longer than my two standards, and that Sailor, by far the longest of the pens. Let's swap on over and we'll look at some pens in roughly the same price range. The pens I brought in, we've got the Narwhal Key West Last Coloradus, 75 Aussie dollars. The Pilot Prera, 76 Aussie dollars. The Sailor ProGear Slim, 355 Aussie dollars. And the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, 377 Aussie dollars. These are as I would normally use the pens. The two pens I brought in, the Key West and the Leonardo, both number 6 size nibs, both steel nibs. Just going to pop the caps on these. With the caps on, today's pens don't they look minute. Let's swap on over and fetch in the rule of measuring. Here we've got the rule of measuring. We'll start with the Prera. So with the cap on, that comes in at 12 centimetres. Unposted, remember the cap pulls off. We're looking at 10.7 centimetres. Posted, 13.4 centimetres. The width of the body at its widest part, that comes in at 1.2 centimetres. The cap, 1.3 centimetres. The section goes from 0.97 up to 1.1 centimetres, so really nice size. With the Sailor, the full pen, that comes in at 12.4 centimetres, so 4 millimetres longer. Unposted is 11 centimetres, so about 0.3 millimetres longer. Posted, we're looking here 14.3 centimetres, so posted there is a definite difference. The width of the body at its widest is 1.2, so same as what we saw with the Prera. The cap is 1.5, so again a little bit bigger than what we see with the Prera. Then the section goes from 0.9 up to 1.1, so the narrowest part just a teeny little bit narrower. Let's swap on over and fetch in the scales of weighing. Here's the scales of weighing. Again, we start with the Prera. The full pen, 16 grams. The body, 8 grams. The cap, 8 grams. So the cap weighs as much of the body. There's a teeny bit of ink in there. With the Sailor, 20 grams, so a little bit heavier. The body, whoops, and stop this rolling, 13 grams, so most of that extra weight is in the body. The cap, 8 grams, so same as the cap on the Prera. We'll swap on over and fetch in the notepad of testing. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. Would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? all down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. Here we've got the notepad of testing. Oxford Optic paper, 90 GSM paper, very nice fountain pen friendly paper. We're going to start writing with the Prera. So we've got a Pilot Prera. Writes really nicely, doesn't it? Yes, it does, Gary. $76. Not a bad price. I sometimes wonder if it's a bit overpriced, but it's not too bad. The ink is by Robert Oster. And it's Tranquility. Something we all need is a bit of a tranquility in our life, isn't it? Drying times, we go immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Still smudging it a teeny tiny bit, so I'm going to do a 1 minute test. After a minute there, now we're nice and dry. Line variation. So here's no pressure. Here's with some pressure. Fairly stiff feeling nib. Do seem to get a little bit of line variation though. Personally, wouldn't recommend pushing it because you could end up damaging the nib. Going to move the mic down to the page and write a sentence. That's enjoyable. Nice feedback, nice tactile feedback. And then my final test. Then gone the other way. Very nice, got nice ink flow. Performs really well. Had no issues with any hard starts or skipping. Just a nice, solid performing pen. I'd say feedback wise, it's got some nice audible feedback. It's got some nice tactileness to it. But how does that compare to the Sailor ProGear Slim? Let's move this notepad up. And we'll pop this one on. So we've got here a Sailor. There's a bit of an issue there. That could have been me. Sailor ProGear Slim. With a broad nib. So price wise, we're looking at 355 Aussie dollars. So that's what, 4.5 of the Pilot Preras. The ink, it's also Robert Oster Tranquility. My apologies, I've got the dog in here with me, watching me, well not watching, she's sleeping and she's snoring away. So apologies if you can hear her snores on the sound. I think it confuses her because normally when I'm recording like today, I'm in the house by myself. And when I'm recording, I'm talking away to myself and I wonder if she thinks to herself, is he talking to me? Anyway, drying times. Here's immediate. Here's 10 seconds. $30. We're dry there at 30 seconds, so no point in doing a 1 minute test. Line variation. So here's no pressure. Again, I'm adding just a little tiny bit of pressure, not enough to hopefully damage the nib, but enough to see is there some variation. Again, we see a little bit. Still wouldn't recommend pushing it. None, with, none, with, none, and with. We'll move the mic to write the sentence. A lot more feedback there, a lot more audibleness to it, a lot more tactileness. It's a little bit like it's scratching, but it's not scratching. It's very hard to describe. I'm going to be honest, this is one of my favourite nibs, full stop. I absolutely love using this pen. This nib is such joy to write with. We get this beautiful feedback. Then, flow test. And going backwards. Very nice. Just going to move this down ever so slightly, just so we see a little bit of both of them. So we've got a medium steel nib, Japanese medium. We've got a medium broad nib, gold nib, again, Japanese broad. Very, very similar in terms of line width. You maybe see a little bit more with the broad than you can with the medium. So what are my thoughts and scores for these pens? We'll start with pen looks. I like the simpleness of the Prera. I like the transparent nature. As I say, I may experimenting with eyedroppering because it's a bit of a shame seeing that converter in there. But it's still nice seeing the ink. With the Sailor, yes, I can see the ink sort of moving around, but not as nice. But look how beautiful this material is. It's the material which does it for me with this. Absolutely beautiful, this blue-green nebula. So the way it's got the stars there captured looks so nice. So for pen looks, 8 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. Build quality, they're both good, solid pens. They both seem to be built at the price point I expect. Yes, the Prera feels a little bit on the cheap side. You know, it's less than a quarter of the price, so it is comparatively, it's a cheap pen. I still think $76 is a lot of money for a fountain pen, but it's still solid. I've had no issues with it. The Sailor, really good, feels a solid pen. Again, had no problems with it. I've had it nearly 2 years. I've used it an awful lot and had no issues at all. Both of them, I'm going to give 8 out of 10. Writing experience, with the Prera, I love it. It's very nice. When I was writing on Tomoe River paper, I had a couple of times where it felt like the nib was scratching a bit and it actually did catch and rip the paper. But I've never had that similar thing with the Sailor. This is one of the few pens where I've had this catching on Tomoe River. So I think it, again, could be the nib. Maybe I need to do a little bit of work on the nib. Haven't done that so far because on most of my papers, it writes really nicely. With the Sailor, I've already said it's one of my favourite nibs, if not my favourite nib. Beautiful, gorgeous feedback. Such a pleasure, such a joy to write with. Going to give the Prera 8 out of 10 and the Sailor 9 out of 10. Ink flow, had no issues with either of them. I've used it on various different papers. So this is Optic. I've used it on Tomoe River. I've used it on Rhodia. I've used it on Ayush. I've used them on cheap notepads from the supermarket. No problems on any of them. The cheaper papers get a little bit of feathering, but you expect that. So for ink flow, both pens 8 out of 10. Comfort. Although they are very similar in shape and size, psychologically, this one, the Prera, feels a little bit thinner. Although I know it isn't, but it feels it. Maybe it's because it feels a lot lighter. It could be that extra bit of weight which makes a difference. But it's still nice and comfortable to use. The Sailor, again, I have to use it posted, but posted. Beautiful fit, beautiful feel. Section, it doesn't feel too thin. Feels quite nice. Got the little lip at the bottom. So for comfort, I've decided to give them both 8 out of 10. Value for money. Now, this is always a hard one, isn't it? We're comparing two pens at two completely different price points. It's not fair to compare them against each other. You know, I can get 4.5 of these for the price of one Sailor. For the Prera, for what it is, I think it's actually not too bad value. I took a while to get used to this pen. It wasn't a pen that really grabbed me when I first bought it and started using it. As I've used it, as I've tried different inks, it's grown on me. It's a solid pen. It performs really well. The Sailor, it's not a cheap pen. Let's not mince any words. You know, we're talking 355 Aussie dollars. We're not talking about something that you could go out every day and buy. But it's a beautiful looking pen. It's a beautiful writing pen. The experience is so nice. So for both of these, I've decided to give them both 8 out of 10 for value for money. Bearing in mind, I'm not comparing them against each other. I'm comparing them against pens that are in roughly the same price range and how they perform and how they feel when I'm using them. So the total score for the Pilot Prera is 8 out of 10, and for the Sailor ProGear Slim is 8.33 out of 10. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these pens? Do you have either of them? Do you've got both of them? Have you tried comparing them against each other? Love to get people's thoughts and ideas. Please drop any comments down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.